and still they're empty. It's very difficult for them to even admit it to others. Because the world thinks that you are a successful person and therefore you have to act as if you are happy. It's very difficult to tell anyone. So this is in many ways the worst situation to be in, because it's very difficult to know how to get out of it. It's very difficult to even admit it to anyone else. So one thing that happens in this situation is that we often end up feeling lonely because we don't know whom to talk with about this or how to deal with it. Lonely and lost. So most often what happens, if one achievement does not lead to fulfillment, we think that maybe I should achieve something else. And the next achievement will lead to fulfillment. And then life simply becomes an endless treadmill. Now, I'm not saying achievements are bad things. Getting good things in life is good. It's not at all bad. But if that is all that we are doing, we will not be very happy in our life. So, now the third quadrant, if we consider, this is where Yudhishthir was during exile. Now, relatively speaking, Yudhishthir, because he was peaceful, although he was a Kshatriya, he was relatively Brahminical. He liked to study scripture, liked to discuss wisdom with others. So he was content in that. And now, Bhima found it very difficult to be peaceful. In fact, what happens sometimes, we are agitated about something, and then we tell the other person, somebody, and if that person does not get agitated, then what happens? We get agitated because they are not agitated. This is serious. How can you not take it seriously? So for Bhima and Draupadi, that was the situation. Yudhishthira, how can you stay so calm? So what happens is, see, there is the English calm and there is the Sanskrit calm. So when the calm decreases, the calm increases. So when desire is driving us, dragging us here and there, then along with that desire, the peace of mind, the calmness, that is stolen. Now, I'm not necessarily using calm here simply in terms of sexual desire. Using calm in terms of desire, craving of any kind. So for him, for Yudhishthir, okay, he was not so dependent for his identity on the kingdom. So he lost it. Of course, it was bad, but he was able to come to terms with it. Now, if we consider the same Yudhishthir post-war, he came to the place where he had he had great things, he had the prosperous kingdom, and he also had good thoughts. However, he had a crisis. What happened was, just before we got the kingdom, he started thinking, am I really worth of having the kingdom? Maybe I caused the war, and he felt very guilty about it. So there was that phase. We'll come to that a little later if we get time. But overall, he came in this direction. So this idea that the quality of our thoughts is also highly important. And the quality of our thoughts is what brings fulfillment. Why? Because the things, they will come and they will go, or even things are there, the quality of the things that we have, sometimes it will be better than what others have, sometimes it will not be as good as what others have. But what is going to be much closer to us is our thoughts. Now, how do we improve the quality of our thoughts? So, is this audible? Yeah. So I'll talk about this in the takeaway. So how do we get fulfillment? That if we consider quality of thoughts is associated with fulfillment, then how do we get that fulfillment? So broadly, it involves three distinct things. One is that at the first level, we need to recognize the significance itself. That significance means that thoughts are more important than things. Now, it is at one level intellectually, it's very easy to understand this, but for us, maybe we have had some experiences, and we need to contemplate those experiences, remember those experiences, and by that it registers for us personally. And the quality of my thoughts is more important than the quality of the things that I have. Without getting this particular, without registering the significance, we will never prioritize fulfillment. We will simply be chasing achievement and expecting or hoping that fulfillment will come automatically. So now, prioritizing thoughts over things. Most of in economic parameters, we talk about standard of living. And we want to improve the standard of living of people. We want to improve our own standard of living. That's important, no doubt. But what is important is our standard of longing. Standard of longing means that what is the kind of desires that I have. It is not, earlier I talked about decreasing karma. That doesn't mean that we can live free from desires. That is not possible. But what am I longing for in my life? So thoughts are important, but what does this mean? At one level, I understand thoughts are more important than things, but my standard of longing means that it's more like a inside out process. Inside out means that what is it that I want to contribute? My contribution is more important than the recognition that the world gives me. So, are there particular areas in my life where I have experienced this? Now, in general, these two are related. If, say, for example, many of your doctors, if you do a very difficult surgery, then that's a significant activity that you have done. There's some recognition that you may get some recognition, some award for that, and that's good. You make some breakthrough in medicine. But the point is, when I'm talking standard of longing, means that what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on contribution or am I focusing on recognition? This is actually the practical meaning of karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Many people think of this as don't care for the results. That's not what the Gita is saying. When Arjuna was fighting a war, obviously he was caring for the results. He wanted to win the war. But what Krishna said is that you focus on your part. So in any activity that we do, this dynamic is there. We put something into the activity and we get something out of the activity. So for most of us, in most of the activities that we do in life, what we get out of that activity is what is most important. Like many people may not really like their job much. But I do the job because it pays me well. It gives me, or at least pays me so that I can take care of my bills and have food on my table. So now, then in most places, the question is how can I do as little as possible and get as much as I can? It's like a business transaction. Now, what is the best deal I can get? Least money and the best product. That's not a wrong attitude. But if that is the attitude we have to everything in life, then when I'm saying the standard of longing is to be elevated, most of the times our longing is for recognition. Recognition can be in terms of praise, it can be in terms of power, position, it can be in terms of wealth, whatever. But are there some areas in our life where the contribution itself brings some satisfaction? And learning to focus on those areas. And learning to shift our focus in general to how can I contribute better? Not that I don't care for recognition, but my focus is on contribution. And when that happens, that's when actually we start getting some intrinsic satisfaction. So this inside-out approach, Arjuna, he was a champion archer. And when he would fight, people would be stunned. What kind of skill is this? But to get to that level, he practiced for hours and years. And if all of that was only so that in those moments people will recognize me, then he would have got frustrated. How long should I practice? How much do I have to work in this? But only when he gets some intrinsic satisfaction. So the Gita talks about our varna. Varna is our natural tendency, our natural interests, our natural inclinations. And when we find these and we act accordingly. So now if we have competence in a particular field, if many of you are doctors, you are competent in that field, and now doing some things more and more in a mood of service, that I focus more on the contribution than on the recognition. Now, it is not possible to consistently have this focus in all areas in life, because all of us have to do things that we don't always like to do. And trying to focus there on the contribution or the recognition, that's not very easy. You may like to do medical treatment, but then along with that, there is so much, say, documentation that has to be done, so much bureaucracy that is there, or so much managerial work is there. You may not like that. Now, there, I want to get this done so that I can get on with the what is my real interest, and that's okay. But at least in some areas of life, we need to have this where I get fulfillment by just doing the activity. So where focusing on the contribution itself gives me some joy. So the recognition is the achievement. But now in which areas of my life does the contribution itself help me to feel satisfied? And where increasing the contribution can increase my satisfaction. Contribution, not the recognition. Going back earlier to this particular, you may like to do medical treatment. Achievements, along with that, there is so much, say, standard documentation that has to be in terms of specific achievement, so much bureaucracy that is there. Also, but if we are getting some intrinsic satisfaction, then what will happen is our contribution and our absorption, that will keep increasing. So, Anuad, even if we find one or two areas in our life, one or two activities during a day or during a week, where this I'm going to do, not just because it gives me pleasure, I'm doing something of value. I'm not talking about just, say, watching movies or getting an entertainment break like that. That may be required, but that doesn't bring fulfillment. Entertainment and fulfillment are very different things. But what I'm talking about is doing some activities that give me fulfillment, and I focus on doing them as well as I can, irrespective of whether the world is going to recognize me or not. And that I just turn off that switch. Let me just do this because this is where I want to absorb myself in. This is where I get some fulfillment in doing this. And then this is where the last part comes in. So that only to understand this shift, it is very helpful to come in what the Bhagavad Gita calls the mode of sattva. In what if we are in rajas or tamas, there are three broad modes in which we function. So in sattva, there is a certain level of clarity. But in rajas, it's all focus on things. And why is this not leading me to happiness? Why is this not leading me to happiness? But in sattva, we start recognizing, okay, this activity if I do, even if nobody praises me for it, I love doing this. And I can do something of value through this. How much the world will value this, I can't control that. But I will do this. So this is the inside out approach. And the third point is purification. Purification is what comes through bhakti. Purification is what comes through connecting with the ultimate reality. When we find that we can connect with Krishna, with the Supreme, then that connection itself becomes a source of positive and enriching thoughts for us. I talked about how do we get to this particular zone of thoughts and things. Now, the things in our life will come and go. So if we are focusing on doing things which give us fulfillment, that is good, that will bring positive thoughts. But independent of our profession, independent of our roles, independent of our relationships, There is people are depressed and you just take antidepressant and try to feel good. That's very external and superficial. Sometimes that may be required, but that's very external. It's mostly chemical based. But the positive thoughts can come not just by doing work that is harmonious with our nature, but the positive thoughts can come from the soul itself. When the soul links with the whole, when the soul links with God, then that brings a great sense of joy that cannot come from any other means. Kulashekar Maharaj is a great king in South India. And after living in royal prosperity, then he turned towards bhakti. And he composed sings in one of his prayers that Sukhataram aparam na jatu jane Hari charana smaranamrutena tulyam. That among all the joys I have experienced in my life, Sukhataram aparam na jatu jane. I do not know any happiness that is better than this. What is it? Hari charana smaranamrutena tulyam. The remembrance of the Lord. So how does this happen? This is the soul. Now around this is the mind. Around the soul is the mind. Around the mind is the body. And then beyond that is the world. So that above the world is God, is Krishna. So we can get fulfillment both by acting in the world with a focus on contribution rather than achievement, but beyond that, this connection with the divine, that itself, that purification that happens, that brings fulfillment that is not dependent on externals. The Atma is Sat Chit Ananda. But that Ananda, the joyfulness that is innate to the soul, is not accessible till we ourselves become spiritually aware. And across the world, more and more people, even people who are very successful professionally, are turning towards meditation, are turning towards spirituality, are turning towards mantra chanting. Kirtan has become very popular. In fact, there has been a proposal for many years that Kirtan should have its own category in Emmy Awards. It may happen in a few years, but the idea is that it's become mainstream. Now, people may not be coming to it only for spiritual purposes. But if they just want music, there are so many different kinds of music. But they're experiencing something over here that is different from what is being experienced. So when we practice bhakti, it's not just a cultural activity, it's not just a religious activity, it's not just a social activity. It's an activity that gives us access to a endless source of positivity. And basically what happens when we connect with Krishna through bhakti is that we start realizing I am a part of a bigger reality. And I have a place, I have a purpose, and I will play my part. So that understanding that when there was a pandemic and there's chaos and pain and horror everywhere. Now, if there is a treatment that works, and if you knew that okay, this is an expert, this expert is guiding us, and I'm a part of this team. Although there is pain all around, but just knowing that I'm a part of a team and I'm doing something of value, that itself gives us a sense of inner meaning, an inner sense of fulfillment that comes not just by doing what we get intrinsic satisfaction in, but also by understanding that I'm part of a bigger reality, a bigger whole in which I am playing a meaningful part. So in this way, we all can find fulfillment by turning towards purification. So I'll summarize what I discussed. Our talk was a journey from achievement to fulfillment. And within that, I talked about three things. So, first was the concept. So, concept is that we all seek achievement in life, but achievement is more external, fulfillment is more internal, and sometimes we may have one without the other. So, achievement depends on more on the recognition from the world. Now, the best would be we have both in life, but if we have only one of these, then we feel empty. And then, now, why might this happen? That we have achievement without fulfillment. So, basically, this happens. I talked about three insights from the Bhagavad Gita for this. That the Gita talks about how when we work in life, that there are thoughts which are important, but the things are what we give importance to. We talk about we are souls. Around the soul there is the mind, and around the mind there is the body. And then the body exists in the world. So things are associated with the body, and they're important. Thoughts are associated with the mind, and they're internal to us. So the whole world tells us that improve things and you will become happier. And there is some truth to that, but it is not a linear correlation. So when we prioritize, if we are prioritizing only achievements, the problem is that life will always have ups and downs, and then either we go way up and way down with it, or we just keep going down. So what we would like instead is that while life will always have its ups and downs, overall in terms of achievement, we cannot control that, but in terms of fulfillment, the graph of our life is moving upwards. So when we can focus on improving the quality of our thoughts, that's when we can move upwards. And so we discussed about, based on the Mahabharata, how there are these four quadrants that are possible. That we have our things which are good in our life and thoughts that are good. So the worst is when we have good things but poor thoughts. Now, best is when we have both good things and good thoughts. I discussed about various characters in the Mahabharata who are at different levels, and how Yudhishthir after the war, Arjuna after the war was in this level. And then take away, I talk about three things which we could do for it. I use the acronym SIP, a sip of wisdom over here. S was, we ourselves need to realize the significance that thoughts are more important than things. So this some experience we have got that even with the best things, I didn't feel happy, and even without good things, there's time when I felt enriched. So that significance of thoughts, significance of the inner world, they are much more important than things. That we need to realize that. And then I talk about the inside out approach. That means the world will tell us, improve your standard of living. And that's certainly important, but the standard of longing. What is it that I am desiring? That improving the quality of our thoughts, it's not just passive. That if we improve the quality of our longing, what that means is that is there some area in our life where the contribution itself gives me joy without being dependent on the recognition. Now, if we get both, that is great. But in most areas of our life, our focus will be here. But are there some areas where we can focus and carving out some time to do these activities, where we do something which is aligned with our nature, and we get satisfaction in doing that, get fulfillment in doing that. And the last was purification. Purification is where we connect with God. That is, we can try to bring positive thoughts in the mind by creating positive situations in the world, or by adopting a positive attitude toward the world. But beyond that, when the soul itself gets connected with God above, then this link becomes a source of positivity. So making some time for our bhakti practices will give us a source of enrichment that does not depend on our roles and responsibilities in society. And this way, we can try to increase our fulfillment internally. And if we can be in quadrant 4, that is the best. But even if we can't be, sometimes life thrusts us into quadrant 3, that is okay. We won't go into quadrant 2 or quadrant 1. And that way we can keep moving ahead in our life. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for clarifying our concepts regarding achievements and fulfillment, and then giving us the insights of thoughts over things, and again giving us a sip of wisdom for takeaway for today. Brilliant class. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So I'm sure that many of us have so many of doubts regarding this particular concept in our daily life regarding achievement and fulfillment. So you are welcome to ask questions. Please ask questions to Prabhuji. You have a question? Dr. Ela, you were asking.
What comes to my mind is when we do some things to achieve. So if I do those things which I love to do, I will have good thoughts also. I will have those fulfillments also. Isn't it true? I mean, this is what I feel. I mean, simply if I want to understand that many of the times I have negative thoughts, I'm not feeling good about it, or I'm not feeling fulfilled, or I'm not feeling happy. I mean, what I'm understanding is fulfillment is being happy about it, whatever I do in my life. So for me to be happy, if I do those things which I love to do, what I'm passionate about. Like I am a passionate doctor, and if I have been put into the engineering college, I will never be happy. I will never be fulfilled, although I will achieve all those degrees. So this is what I'm in.
I agree. So now, can we get more fulfillment by doing the things which we are naturally passionate about? Well, of course, that is true. I would say that still there are degrees that even when we are doing things which we love to do, if there is no higher purpose in our life, in terms of there is no spirituality, then there can be a problem in the long run. So one of my services is that I write books. So I have read about very successful authors, and almost 5 or 6 of those who are considered to be the top authors of the last century, they ended up committing suicide. And it is not that they were frustrated. No, what happened is that they wrote one book which won enormous awards. They became globally famous after that. And then, after that, when they were writing, it's just that whatever they wrote, they felt it's just not good enough. And the thought that my best is behind me, that just they couldn't digest it. So now the point is that now they love to write, and they were good writers. Now, was it that they were dependent on the achievement? Well, it is not just the achievement. It is not that oh, this book will not be praised by the critics. See, even objectively, we can evaluate. Okay, this is really well written. This is not so well written. It's not just the world's evaluation, it's our own evaluation. See, even when we are doing something which we like to do, and which we are even good at doing, but there is, for any person who is really who is a bit introspective, bit thoughtful, it's almost like that good thing, that excellent thing, I am more of a channel for that than a source for that. That brilliance to tackle this problem, that inspiration, that insight, that idea, it comes through me, but it comes to me before it comes through me. It is that there is something beyond me that is providing that. So if that divine perception is not there, the divine connection is not there, then If my sense of fulfillment is only coming from contribution, what may happen is, it's good, that's better than that coming from recognition. But even our capacity to contribute is not entirely in our control. That also is a gift. We can try, and we definitely need to try. Inspiration or those brilliant ideas, often they come in the soil of hard work, in the soil of diligent effort. But still, the soil and the seed are not the same thing. So that's why even focusing on the contribution is good. In the story of the Mahabharata, which is expanded in the Bhagavatam, now Arjuna was a great archer, and Arjuna used his archery for a virtuous purpose, for the purpose of dharma. But eventually, the greatest crisis he faced was when even his archery ability deserted him. He was just defeated by some unknown fighters, and he could have been completely crushed at that time. But that's when his spirituality, his connection with God, that came to him. So you could put it this way, that my sense of self-worth and my sense of positivity comes from my achievement. So it's good to have some achievements and to seek some achievements in life. No. But beyond that, it comes simply from my ability. Whether my ability is recognized by the world or not, whether I get achievements or not, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm going to do. But eventually after that, we need to move towards our spirituality. So that, because sometimes even the ability may not be there for us. Now spirituality is not only at the top. If we have good spirituality, we will also be able to achieve better. We'll also be able to recognize our ability better. Because what happens? Many times we also evaluate our ability more in terms of what the world will value. That's like, say, somebody might be very good in one particular field. Somebody might be very good in art or music or law, but if they are in a society where you have to become an engineer, you have to become a doctor, then they may not value their own ability. So spirituality, understanding that I am a part of a bigger reality, and there is a part for me within that bigger reality, that help us to recognize our ability better, that will also give us the inner stability by which we can achieve better. But overall, there may come a time in our lives when even neither achievement will be there for us, nor ability will be there for us. That's why spirituality is having its own independent importance, apart from its capacity to provide us greater insight into our abilities and greater capacity to achieve things. Am I addressing your question? Thank you. It's a good question.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji, for telling us that spirituality is in our practical life will help us understand our abilities better and also, contributing it better way. So, any other question? Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, while making our contribution, so whether to assess that our contribution is useful to the society, we may have to depend on the feedback coming from the people who are we serving or for whom the contribution is intended to be. As long as the feedback is positive, it is good. If the feedback sometimes turns negative, then we may be affected by it. It can take very different shapes, like what goes on amongst the social circles as trolling, online, in other words, in other forms also.
Yeah.
So while we contribute, how do we safeguard ourselves from these negative feedbacks and from discouragements?
Yeah, it's true. So, focusing on contribution, at that time also, there has to be some valuation from society, from somebody outside us. So then, how do we do that in a way that is healthy? Yeah, broadly, it's two main principles, but one visual for this. In our life, there will always be people who will value us, and there will be people who will devalue us. Now, when I say people who will value and people who will devalue, value doesn't mean always they will praise us. Because somebody might just praise and devalue because they don't really care for us. Like if I give a talk and I ask, well, how was the talk? And somebody says, I don't want to talk much with me. Say, it was a very good talk, and go away. Now, they don't mean anything bad, but I don't learn anything of value from there. So some people may flatter us, and that may not be very helpful. So I'm not saying valuing is necessarily praising, but they value us, they care for us, and there are people who devalue us. So now value us means that they care about us, they care that we do well, and they appreciate what we do good, and they also need to give feedback when it is not good. But overall, their mood is to want to encourage and help us to improve. Now, the worst situation we can be in is that we put ourselves in a place where we overvalue those who devalue us. And then we end up devaluing those who value us. That is the formula for creating misery in our life. There may be some people who will never praise us no matter what we do. Everybody will have those kind of people in their life. We may do 100 good things for them, and they will notice the 101st thing that we did not do and will criticize us for that. So we can't overvalue those people. They are there, and sometimes they may also have something positive. But social media trolling and this kind of thing, some people just get joy in criticizing others. So we just can't overvalue them. And there are some people who are encouraging and appreciative of us, but we tend to devalue them. This person always speaks like that. Yeah, they always speak, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have value in it. So the healthy situation is that we place ourselves at a place where we value those who value us. And then we don't overvalue those who devalue us. So that's why it's good to have at least a few people around us, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, who will give us some candid feedback about what we are doing, where we are going in our life. So having friends, having some kind of mentors or counselors or guides, that's very helpful. But we can't take everybody's feedback very seriously. If that's what, see, we don't want to be insensitive, but at the same time we don't want to be super sensitive also, because otherwise we'll be very affected. It's like as a speaker, I go to one place in Australia, and there's this one young man, he's now adult, he comes and sits right in front, and throughout the talk, he's glaring at me. Not even staring, glaring. And even if there is some humor, even a smile does not dare to touch his lips. So, so when this happened once, twice, then I asked the local organizer, and then they told me that, he's like this all the time. He's very grave. So now the only way I can give a class over there is by looking at everyone except that person. So now there are some people who will be critical. We don't want to devalue them. We don't want to reject them completely. But at least we don't want to overvalue them. So that's why we cannot say, I will not take any feedback from anyone. But we cannot also keep taking feedback from everyone. We will just get overwhelmed by that. So some feedback we need to take. Some people, so it's more like no feedback will make us very self-centered and egoistic. And everyone's feedback if we take, then we will become very, very volatile, very, very, very fragile. What we want is selective feedback. Now, selective means that those people who are our well-wishers, not just people who praise us. I'm not talking selective in that sense. But again, those who value us and those who we know are well-wishers, when they speak something negative also, they have our good at heart. Then we can take that feedback properly. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, that quadrant was the worst quadrant. So we see like many of the people nowadays are like having like in that quadrant only, because people have so many things, but they start focusing on things which they don't have or they compare with others. So how to counsel self, or how to even ourselves also, how to counsel us or others to come out of that quadrant, because we are regularly seeing and people are getting depressed. And now people don't have many people have a lot of things, but they will not focus on those things and start focusing on other things which they don't have actually.
Yeah. So often people focus on achievement more than fulfillment, and that's why how do we get others to come out of that quadrant? Well, it's not easy in general. How to get them out? I would say 2, 3 things help. One is that it's in general for us, we look at ourselves through a social mirror. It's natural. We look at ourselves through how the world sees us. And that's not a bad thing. In developmental psychology, when a child is growing up, when a child noticing, okay, when I do this, my parents are pleased with me. If I do this, my parents are unhappy with me. And then child regulates his actions accordingly. That is a good thing. So being aware of others and making sure that what we do is not reflecting negatively on the social mirror. That's not a bad thing. But it can become a bad thing when the social mirror itself is not healthy or holistic. So nowadays what happens, we don't just have a social mirror, we have a social media mirror. What that means is that we put our life for the whole world to see, and others also put their life for us to see. And this is one of the worst causes of destructive comparison and insecurity. Among teenagers especially, it is like an epidemic, where in general social media use more and more they do it. They start comparing themselves with others and start feeling more and more insecure. So Australia recently has decided to ban social media use for everybody below 16. And that's not necessarily a good thing. And of course, what happens is people find ways around, use VPN and change their identity, do all those things. So, but that's not a solution, but that's a concern. Many top social media founders and pioneers, they don't allow their children to use social media, at least up to a particular age. So what happens in social media mirror is that often we compare the worst moments of our life or the average moments of our life with the best moments of others' lives. And it's not even the best moments of their lives. You know, sometimes there's physical makeup and there's digital makeup. And then, so what is being shown is actually not the real picture. So in that sense, this is one source of negativity, that comparison and negativity that comes in. So at least for some time, helping people find some real engagements, turning away from the world and focusing on some ways they connect with people at a physical level, at a practical level, at a social. So that is very helpful. That obsession with the virtual world can be decreased. Now, when we say if we are helping others, we are parenting or guiding, it's important that we ourselves have the right vision. Many times in the parenting, when we are parenting or we are guiding with child, we may consider the child to be like clay. Now there is some truth to that, but actually from the Bhagavad Gita's perspective, children are not like clay. They are like seeds. Clay means the parent can shape the child whichever way they want. From a clay you can make a pot, you can make a vessel, you can make anything. But seed means, if it's a mango seed, we'll get a mango. We won't get an apple out of it. So in many ways, each person is like a seed. Everybody is a soul, and the soul has certain impressions and inclinations from the past. So those who are guiding us, it's natural that they will have some expectations from us. So social expectations are not a bad thing. But social expectations, how they come upon us. If social expectations pressure us to not just fit into a broader social mold, but to become a particular thing within that mold, then that is not healthy. So it has to be that the parents and children, or whoever is guiding, and so the counselor and the counselee, it's like a mutual observation and reflection to understand what are the innate gifts. Then what will happen is, then the person will be able to find fulfillment. Krishna says that paradharmo bhayavaha. Paradharmo, what it means is, if somebody is doing some activity which is not according to one's nature, according to one's swabhava. What is bhayavaha? He says it is very fearful because it will cause disruption in society. If somebody is a researcher and they don't get any joy in doing research itself, then what is going to happen? They will only be seeking how much recognition can I get from it. You know, how can I get my paper published over here? How can I win this award? And then doing careful research will not be as important as getting impressive results. And that's how people may take shortcuts, people may doctor the research, people may force fit the results into particular findings, and then that can lead to problems in the long run. So the researcher, of course, they want to get some good results, but there has to be some joy in doing research itself. Like if somebody is a doctor, and everybody will not naturally want to put in so much effort, so much time, so much money in becoming a doctor. Actually, we'll want money and some respectability, recognition in society. But if somebody is a doctor, that they don't get any joy in actually caring for people and healing people, then they will only be concerned about money. And then the patient will be simply seen as money minting machines. And that would be paradharmo bhayavaha. If somebody is a speaker, now every speaker would like to have a good impact. But if instead of focusing on the message that they are going to give, the speaker is only concerned about popularity, then they might just tell only some humor, some joke, something which will give quick applause, some platitudes, and not share any meaningful wisdom. So that's why helping each person to recognize what kind of seeds they have, what kind of seeds they are in terms of their swabhava, will help them also to find that, to experience for themselves that there are things which give me happiness independent of whether the world values it or not. And once they start getting that first-hand experience, then moving towards, say, quadrant 4 or even quadrant 3. If we can't be in quadrant 4, that will become easier for them. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Maybe.
Prabhuji, quadrant 1 mimics quadrant 3 in a certain extent where it's cyclic, where fulfillment, if somebody is fulfilled, they might not care about the achievement or how achievement is defined, or be indifferent to how achievement is defined. So that's the reason Yudhishthira in exile was in quadrant 3. But then how to perhaps come from quadrant 3 to quadrant 4, and how then also to safeguard against the risk of, once we try and understand how others might define achievement, not to fall in quadrant 2 or quadrant 1. Because in that context, then perhaps an argument can be made that quadrant 3 is the safest and most risk-free, because you don't, or maybe you're indifferent to how achievement is defined.
Okay, so is quadrant 3 the best because it's risk-free? Well, I would say yes and no, because the world is a place with serious problems. And there are serious measures required to deal with the problems. And say, for example, somebody loves to do research. That's good, but there are so many diseases in the world, and somebody doing medical research, actually finding a cure for a particular disease, it can save so many lives. So in one sense, we may not call it achievement. The achievement could mean that you find out how to actually cure the disease. Then after that, you're recognized for that. You're rewarded for that. There could be many degrees of achievement also. But there's no need to demonize achievement. See, we live in a world where there are serious problems. And there are real and serious solutions required for those problems. So, learning to find or implement those solutions is important. If somebody says, I love cooking, but they don't cook really very well. Okay. Then you can cook because you like to cook, but somebody else had to cook so that we'll have some food we can eat. So we cannot function only with intrinsic joy in life. Because we are not islands. We live in a community. We live in a world where tangible problems exist and tangible solutions are required for those problems. So the question is that, say, if I can't cook as well as someone else, does that mean therefore I should not cook at all? Or I won't cook till I can be a better cook than that person? No, that person may have their role, I may have my role. Maybe that person's role is bigger and better than my role, but doesn't matter. I also have a role. So in that sense, the fulfillment does not have to pull us away from achievement. If we have fulfillment, then we will be able to come to terms with even a smaller achievement. That okay, my achievement may never be as big as somebody else's achievement. Maybe it's because I don't have that much talent. Maybe it's because I'm in a different environment. It may be different things could be involved in that. But the point is that it's not that we don't seek achievement. That's why then the attitude of contribution is there. I want to make a positive difference. How much of a positive difference I'll succeed in making, how much the world will value the difference that I'm making, that I can't control so much. But still, I want to make a positive difference. Does that address your question? How to get from 3 to 4? Yeah. It's a big question, but quickly I'll mention this. This is mentioned in 18.14 in the Bhagavad Gita, that what are the factors that lead to success? So broadly, I use the acronym TECH for this: talent, environment, and commitment. Adhishtanam tatha karta, karanam cha putak vida, vividhascha putak cheshta, daivam chaivatra panchavam. So karanam refers to the talent, then adhishtan is the place, that is the environment, and cheshta is the environment. Sorry, cheshta is the commitment. So in general, from action to result, these three factors are involved. So talent plus environment plus commitment. So now we have to evaluate, if I am not succeeding, what is the reason? Is it that I don't have the particular talent? Or is it that I have the talent but I'm not in the right environment? Talent is like a seed. The seed also requires the proper soil. And is it that I haven't tried enough? I haven't committed enough. Now, if in spite of all these three things, we don't get results, then we can assume that maybe it is not in my destiny. Maybe I should shift to some other field. But generally, it's best to look at these three things. So Arjuna always had talent, but then when he came to the Gurukula of Drona, that environment supported him. Now, that environment was there for all the students. What ensured that Arjuna became such a great archer was his distinctive commitment. Now, Karna also had talent. Karna found environment in Parshuram's training. But the difference was that Karna got so caught in pleasing Duryodhan that Karna did not continue learning and growing. Arjuna, when he was in the forest, he continued learning. He performed austerities and got further weapons. So that commitment to keep learning and growing, that the celestial weapons which Arjuna had got, that made a key difference between Arjuna and Karna. Karna knew that the celestial weapons that he had got from Parshuram, he would forget them because of a curse. But it was not that Parshurama said you can never get any more celestial weapons. He could also have performed tapasya and got them, but he did not. So talent, environment, commitment, all those three we need to consider to see whether we can move from quadrant 3 to quadrant 4. Okay, last question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Okay, yeah,
So in SIP wisdom, is one of them is more important than other? Is there any sequence that we should go in that for fulfillment or?
So is there a sequence? Well, I would say yes. In general, unless we realize the significance of the thoughts as compared to things, we will not really value the future things in life. We will not focus on inside-out approach. We will not really focus on purification. We may even do bhakti, but we may do it more as a cultural activity. This is a part of my tradition, I should be doing this. So in that sense, it's linear. But at the same time, in our own life, when we are trying to focus, we can see which is the thing which I need to do more right now. That we may have to explore for ourselves.
One of them is more important than other?
Is one of them more important than others? Like I said, ultimately, neither achievements will be there with us, but nor ability will also be there with us. So only our spirituality will be there with us. So in that sense, that purification that comes through spirituality, through bhakti, is the most important. But that does not mean what is ultimately most important, does not make it mean that other things are not important. See, Arjuna won the war not just because he was a great devotee. He was also a great devotee and a great archer. So both were important. So yes, all three are important, but in the ultimate sense, this is artha and there is paramartha. So paramartha is our connection with Krishna. Want to speak on that? Let's finish with
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, from this journey from achievement to fulfillment, so suppose one is giving more importance to the thoughts, which really should matter and which should bring in the fulfillment. And then for a particular contribution, if one feels fulfilled, the one may tend to stop there and stay there because one is getting fulfilled. So there may not be any further ambition left to contribute further. Those who are taking up spirituality in their life early on, they sometimes may be accused that they are less ambitious because they are easily fulfilled, because their contentment comes early. So in that sense, they may not become great achievers. They may be happy in their own places.
Yeah. So is it that
achievement,
spirituality,
fulfillment, contentment,
Yeah.
where to stop? And
so is it that our spirituality, when it makes us feel content or fulfilled, then we won't pursue or we won't have ambition? Well, yes, it's possible, but it's not inevitable. See, broadly, I put it in a spectrum. Like say, I'll talk about when I talk with students, one of my contributes student outreach. So then, there are some students who just love the subject. Somebody is in engineering, they love that field of engineering. Somebody loves physics. And these are in a very small minority. Most of them are there because their parents told them, or because they will get good money, they will have a good career, they want to go abroad or whatever. So we could say that if we consider our career, for some people, their career, for most people you could say the career is the source of their livelihood. For this is where the majority people will come. Now there are a few people for whom their career is their passion. I'm not using passion in the sense of Rajoguna over here. Passion means it's like their calling. It is what I love to do. And majority will be somewhere, there will be a good number of people who are somewhere in between. And they have some attraction to their career. But it's not that is what defines them. Yeah, I like doing it, but there are many other things also which are important in my life. So I think how much ambition one should have, or it is dependent also on how much one is naturally aligned in that area. So if for somebody who for him is studying a particular field or working in a particular field is their passion, then we tell them in the name of spirituality, don't do this so much. Then we are actually depriving them of what is their God-given calling. If somebody loves music, then don't get so much into music. No, if that's what they are talented in that, they are attracted towards that, they are good at that, then often they need to be facilitated in that. And every waking moment, every spare moment that they have, they will just be absorbed in that. And that's good. So it's not a bad thing to have ambitions when it's not just that at the end of the journey, I get some joy. If along the journey also I'm getting some joy, then that ambition won't be corrosive. It won't just exhaust us from within. Now for people for whom it's just a job, it's not really a career or it's not just a calling for them, then if you force them to be very ambitious in that area, that will exhaust them. I do my job for 8 hours. You tell me to work for 12 hours or 16 hours, I don't want to do that. Does that mean they're being unambitious? No. So that's why there is an individuality in this. So I don't think the level of, so the level of ambition can come from simply being in Rajoguna, where a person thinks that, if I don't achieve, then what is the value of my life? But when that is not the dynamic, then the level of ambition will depend on the level of alignment of their particular role in life with their nature, with their natural gifts. And so some people may just excel in a particular field. And if they are excelling in that field, we need to encourage them for that. But if some people are not doing that, then okay, this is my job. They will have their ambitions or their area of focus in some other areas of life. Okay, I don't want to focus so much on my career growth, but then they may be doing some other seva, they're taking some other responsibilities. Everybody needs to keep growing. Now, how you grow, that may vary. Somebody may take up more direct spiritual responsibilities, and they want to focus more on those kind of services. And that's what gives them fulfillment, and that's good. So it's a flexible approach. Everybody needs to, the living condition is the growing condition. Living means we are growing. But in which area we grow, that can vary for different people. Okay, if you feel fulfilled, does the hunger diminish? It depends. See, the two ways it could go. One is when I'm fulfilled, what is the need to do anything more? But the other is, if I'm fulfilled, the other could be that I want to share this with others. There is so much good in this, why should anyone be deprived of this? It's like if I have enough food, if I don't have any food, I go out to buy some food or find someone who can give me some food. If I have enough food, I may not need to go to someone else. But if I have so much food that I can't eat all of it, then I may want to find someone to share that food with. So fulfillment could lead to wanting to share also with others. But that will not come from a place of neediness. It will come from a more of place of fullness. Okay. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Such an enlightening class. So much wisdom that Prabhuji has given that right from tomorrow onwards we can focus on the zone of contribution and start feeling fulfilled. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So much of what I spoke today is there in my book, Gita for the CEO. This whole dynamic of fulfillment and achievement and working according to our nature. This is published by HarperCollins. It's a national bestseller in India. And there are 10 principles from the Gita which I have drawn. And I've explained them through a contemporary conversation. It is not only for CEOs. It is ultimately each one of us meant to be CEO of our own life. So that book is available. If any of you would like to have, I'll be here for answering any questions or for signing the books if you want. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
So dinner prasadam is there for everyone. Please take and